Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture we're just going to cover tagging and resource groups. So what are tags? Well, I think we all know what tags are, but just in case you don't, tags are key value pairs that are attached to AWS resources. It's metadata, so it's basically data about data. And tags can sometimes be inherited. So think of things like auto-scaling, CloudFormation, Elastic Beanstalk, etc., where these provisioning services can go in and create other resources. They will then tag those resources that they create with their own tags. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what resource groups are. So resource groups make it easy to group your resources using the tags that are assigned to them. So think of them as almost a container for tags. You can group resources that share one or more tags. Resource groups contain information such as the region, the name, whether or not they've passing or failing any health checks, and then it also has specific information depending on the technology involved. So like for EC2, you can get your public and private IP addresses. For Elastic Load Balancer, you can get all the port configurations. For RDS, you get the different database engine types, etc. And you can actually dump all this out in a CSV file. So why don't we go into the console now and have a quick look at how this actually works. Okay, so here we are logged into the console, and I'm just going to go in and spin up an EC2 instance. And in this example, we're going to assume that this is owned by our developers. So every time that they create a new instance, they call it, they tag it with developers. So I'm just going to use the Amazon AMI and just a normal general purpose T2 micro. I'm not going to give it any roles or anything. I'm just going to give it the standard storage. And in here, I'm going to call it developers. And then we also might want to add a subset. So we might in here say developers and then which team the team is. So this might be team A. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my security groups. Just leave everything as standard, but I'm going to select an existing security group. And we're all good to go. So I'm going to launch this now, and I'm just going to select any key pair and hit launch. Okay, so that is now launching. So let's go back to the console and see how you get into the resources section. So up here, you've got a little drop-down box called resource groups, and you can go in and create a resource group. You've also got it across here off to the right. So let's go in and create a group. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to create a resource group, and we start off with the group name. Now it's pre-filled in with resources with name tag. So I'm just going to say my developer resources. Okay, now you can see the different tags here, and this is pre-populated by what we already have. So we've got our name, we've also got our developers. So I'm going to leave it with name for now. We can actually have nested tags. So let's have a look at name, and we're going to go down, and this is all the tags that I've got currently with my estate. So you can pick out tags that are already there. So I'm going to click my developer one, and I'm just going to leave it. You can have multiple tags, but I'm just going to leave it with developers. And then if I wanted to add in my different which developer group, I would have developers here, and then you could see team A. So this could be a this would be a resource group for all the team A of developers. And this essentially allows me to track all the resources that team A within the developer group are using. Now you can have all regions or specific regions, and you can have different resource types or all resource types. I'm just going to leave this all blank for now and hit save. Okay, and you can see now that it has created my developer resources group, and now what it is doing is basically bringing in everything that's tagged with developers and team A across all regions within AWS. We can see that there's only one EC2 instance, but you can see all the different services down here. So you've got Elastic MapReduce, Elasticache, Elastic Beanstalk, Glacier, etc., etc. And we can see this instance in here. So I can actually click on this button here, which will launch that specific instance, so I can go in and change it. The other thing I can see from here is whether or not there are any alarms going on. We can see the name, the instance ID, the region, and you can actually go into, I think it's this one, and you can export as a CSV. And you can export all columns or all visible columns. So if we go in here, you can actually add in additional information. So you can add in the private DNS, the private IP address, the public DNS, what security groups it belongs to, and you can, what availability zone it's in, etc. So you can add these in as separate columns, and then you can export the entire thing as CSV files. And this is what I was saying in the lecture earlier, it depends on the specific technology. If we go into load balancers in here, you can see its health check, what port configurations it has, etc., etc. So resource groups are a great way of keeping track of who is consuming what. And basically, if something is not tagged, you can also create a resource group for that, and you can go in and delete it. Okay, so if you're already using AWS but you're not using resource groups and you want to adopt this, you can do this quite easily using the tag editor. So we can click here, or you can click up here and go to tag editor. And this will allow you to see all your resources and what they're currently tagged with, and then go in and edit them. So you can see all your different regions here, what the resource types are. So right now we're just looking at load balancers, for example, and we can see here the names. So I've got a couple of resources here, a couple of load balancers which I didn't know I had, and these are actually going to be costing me money, so I'm going to go in and delete them after this. But you can see that they're not tagged. And you can see that this one is tagged, and I can go in and change that tag. And if you remember, tag is a key value pair. So if it's not tagged, you can click in here and add the name. So I can call this developers. I can do this one as developers. And then if you also remember, we can add in columns, so we can see our developers column. And now you can see that these are not tagged. So this could be team A. This could be team B, etc. And this tag editor just makes it a lot easier to go in and find all these resources, because you don't have to worry about going into the EC2 section and finding the load balancers. You can view as many different resources as you want. So I can add in EC2 images and hit find resources. And then again, this will update with even more things that are not tagged. So it's really easy to go in and start implementing this and start tagging your resources. It's really easy to set up resource groups. They're great for keeping track of things. They're great for keeping track of which department owns which resources. It's also great for finding things that you didn't know that you had that you've been paying for, which I've just discovered myself. So I really would recommend using resource groups, and this can be a key sort of topic coming up in the exam about how you keep track of things. Always think of resource groups, and you can go in and implement resource groups, and then use the tag editor to go and find resources that aren't tagged. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.